In terms of a roadmap for government policymaking, the white paper lays out a couple. It says, first of all, regulation is to be used strategically and sparingly. They recognize the need for regulation, but they would like it to be strategic regulation and not overbroad. They want it to be used in very precise ways to help stimulate the development of broadband rather than to try to control it. I think the most important thing they lay out in their 6 points are to make broadband a national priority. Currently in the U.S., broadband is not a national priority. It's something that every now and again somebody will talk about, but it is not on everyone's mind. It is rarely talked about by congressmen and women who are running for office. And Cisco Systems says if we want broadband to the home, if we want true fiber optic connectivity from start to finish, we're going to have to make it a national priority. Thirdly, they suggest exploring partnership models. Again, we're doing some of this, but not enough, and we need to really push on that to see what's possible. Streamline intergovernmental rules. As you know, we have a federal system and a state system, and sometimes the federal rules and the state rules don't fit together, so we have to streamline the way that those different rules and regulations connect. Rural broadband languishes behind what happens in large cities, and that's because in large cities you get a lot of people, and building out broadband is economically feasible, and it makes sense. In rural communities, you have a lot of space and very few people, and covering that space is very expensive. So we need to have some incentive to help build out broadband in the rural communities. At one point, when we were building the first electrical network of power, this was also happening. The cities had electric power, the small rural communities did not, and the federal government created a special incentive for the building out of the electrical power grid to rural communities. And Cisco Systems thinks that something similar is needed in the area of broadband. And lastly, they suggest that governments should lead by example, that we should use e-government, and that e-government should show the citizens what is possible with broadband. And I think, again, the Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, as it is officially known, is a good example of trying to use e-government, of trying to put something out there that would utilize the network to do government services. And again, it had a few hiccups, but nonetheless, it does show what's possible once you get those things ironed out and are able to roll out something this massive on that scale. And just two last things I want to mention. Recently, Rahm Emanuel's office unveiled plans to build a Wi-Fi network in Chicago so that all the parks would become gigabit networks for doing business, so that you could go to a city park, open your laptop, and get free Wi-Fi, and this is in process. Obviously, the parks in the Loop are first on the list, but it's building outward into Lincoln Park and down into Pilsen and elsewhere. And eventually, the hope is that the entire city will be Wi-Fi enabled. But we're starting slow. And a city as large as Chicago, it's going to take a while to build out this kind of network. But there is plans in. And lastly, I posted this on the Facebook page because it was about net neutrality and the recent federal government ruling out of the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia regarding the FCC's attempt to create open internet rules. And this all has to do with net neutrality. And I just wanted to make one mention about net neutrality because it's something you'll hear again and again as this debate goes on. This recent ruling by the court isn't the end of net neutrality necessarily, but it's more of the beginning of a national conversation regarding net neutrality. So what is net neutrality? Net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers and governments should treat all data on the internet equally, not discriminating or charging differentially by user, content, site, platform, application, etc. And the term comes to us from Columbia University law professor Tim Wu. And the idea is this. Right now, all the content on the internet is sent around the world irrespective of who it belongs to or what it is. So you have this model of a very free and open flow of information. There is worry that in the future, cable companies and internet service providers would want to create premium channels like you have in cable for really high-end stuff, and then sort of lower grade channels for lesser important stuff, and that they would charge you more for the premium and give the other stuff away for free. And so it's a situation where we're looking at the internet now not being a open, free exchange of data, but rather being a kind of toll road where we would charge for access to internet content sort of in the same way that we bundle and charge for content in the cable world with cable television. And that is seen as being a real threat to freedom of speech, but also a real threat to the free and open experience of the internet. So you'll hear a lot about net neutrality, and the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who put out this article that I posted to Facebook, is a group that is really interested in defending the free and open internet and maintaining net neutrality. And so obviously their interest in writing this little piece is to sort of convince you that net neutrality is really important and that we need to promote it in our policy and in our future decisions.